In the spring of 2017, I had just finished attending the MIT Sloan Sports Analytics Conference and met with the then faculty advisor, Ben Shield. And he said, we have 3,200 attendees. I can count on one hand how many African Americans were there, probably on two, how many women, and how are we going to increase the percentage of African Americans and young women in this particular field so that those interested in the sports industry can enter into those particular organizations that use data scientists. At the same time, I'm dealing with a friend of mine named Ed Tapscott. We decided to attack the problem at the senior high school level. And we decided to incorporate faculty from Morgan State, data scientists, at that point been Ed Tapscott from the Wizards, and then Ben Shields, and to identify a secondary school that would want to engage in developing research projects that would take sports data-driven problems and create data visualizations. So we started with Marvin Webster, graduate of Evanston, graduate of Morgan State. The goal was to get him into Collegiate Basketball Hall of Fame. December, Baltimore Sun decided to do an article on the club because it's the first data science scholastic club in the country. March, the Hall elects Marvin Webster. And the chair of the committee says the reason that we've elected Marvin Webster to the National Collegiate Basketball Hall of Fame in Kansas City was this analytics report, this data visualization that was a part of the portfolio, the dossier of all the voters who said, wow, now that we see the analytics associated with his play compared to other players of the era, Walt Frazier, Earl Monroe, Willis Reed, Robert Parrish, who already were in the Hall, we are going to elect Marvin Webster to the Hall. ESPN picked up that and decided to do a documentary. Documentary hits on Sunday morning of the third weekend in November, and by the time I came back to my law office, my executive assistant was saying, my goodness, that must have been a heck of a show you did, because we've got so many inquiries from across the country. As a result of the Therese Steiners and the Marianne Drives that we went to school with, I then had to sort of reach out to my resources in my class and say, I had no intention of starting a nonprofit. I had no intention of going into data science education. Can I get some help here? And that's how Class Act got involved. Wrote the business plan with Jonathan Sprague. The initial financing came from Bauman. Lenny came in with, I do legal work for nonprofits. I'll help you incorporate. And all that took place as a result of my relationships with my classmates, because we had not envisioned doing anything more than a proof of concept. And so fast forward, we've administered 36 clubs across the country in 14 states in the District of Columbia. We have 37 university partners, and then we have a host of data scientists who reach the major leagues in Tennis Australia. Why that's important is the concept is based upon a team, a professor from a local university who teaches a teacher, the fundamental skill set, who teaches the students, trainer to trainer. And then depending upon the sport you choose, if you choose a basketball analytics project, then we have someone from the NBA, from the franchise city, who designs a project. Similar for baseball, similar for football, and then we also have Tennis Australia. And so the importance of that is you have industry, the sports industry, working collaboratively with the universities, who work collaboratively with secondary education. And this is the first time in the history of scholastic education where industry, universities, and secondary schools have worked collaboratively to provide fundamental education in this country. We've remained siloed. Secondary education does its thing, higher education does its thing, and industry says, well, if you got anybody that can really apply to what we want to do, then that's great. At the point that we started, the data science field was it is now the third fastest growing field in technology. It's both on the business intelligence side and on the performance side in the sports industry. 3% African American, 6% Hispanic, more significantly, only 15% women. So if you're dealing with an industry, and that industry needs a data scientist, they know they're not getting a depth of a quality pool. So that's the problem we're tackling, is to eliminate, that type of disparity, and understanding that it's driven to those people, young people that really want to excel and have a pathway to data science education that gives me a competitive advantage. So the idea is I'm going to build your interest through a sports data-driven research project. You're going to develop the fundamental skill set, particularly in programming, Python or R Studio. And then as you come to a Harvard or MIT or Caltech, you already have the fundamental skill set, and then you're going to be recruited by the industries that need your talent the most. We have a good 10 years left as a class. We have a diminishing rate of return on our time. That's literal. We know that. And so we've got to maximize what we're going to leave for the next generation. And we've got to invest in sustainable activities that we know 50 years from now will still be very active and provide competitiveness in the digital economy.